All right, thank goodness our break is pretty well over now. We get games on Tuesday. You'll be seeing this on Monday morning here. Super excited to get into our trades for the week. Obviously, Adelaide is our team to be focusing on. Most likely, three of those trades of your trades this week are going to be going to those Strikers players. We didn't get to see them play in that first game, which is pretty frustrating, but we do have a general idea on the majority of their players. So a few of their top of the order batsmen, you got Adam Jose there. I like to say Jose. You've got guys like Chris Lynn. You know exactly what you're going to be getting out of them. The Matt Shorts, Darcy Short. Obviously, he's going to be opening the batting as well. So that top four seems to be, sort of fairly set for the most part. And then that middle order is probably where things are going to be a little bit odd with the Overtons, with the James Bazley, these types of guys there as to where they actually are going to bat and then what they do with their spin options and obviously which pace bowler they do leave out from this side, given they have, four sort of top line paces to go along with Overton, with Bazley in there as well. So plenty going on in this side. And the good thing here is that we do get to make that selection of these players in that first game, which is great news. So firstly, let's just get into the Adelaide Strikers and their squad and sort of the guys that we'd be looking at. Obviously here I have all of their players on deck. And everyone should be getting Matt Short in. Everyone should be likely just putting the straight captaincy on him, and the main reason for that is just so that you can do some looping in and around some of your other players there. I think that's going to be most important here. If you're owning only the one Stars player in a Glenn Maxwell, then you can only loop the one player there. And I really, from that standpoint, think that you should definitely captain Matt Short straight out. If you have three Stars players, I think it's very, very easy to vice captain Shorty and see what happens with that first game for him. Just because there's not many, how many other guys in your squads would you be very confident on putting the straight captain on them in a single game week? Is it a Tom Curran? Is it a Sutherland at the moment as the type of players to be looking to do that? Is it Zampa? Is it something like that? Probably unlikely that you'd take that punt. So I feel like the straight C on Short is good. And you can use that other couple of Stars players that you do own, two, whether it's three, to actually do some looping in your squad. So I've made a couple of trades here already myself, and the third one to bring in a batsman or bowler, depending on how I want to play this myself. And then I can use Harper and also Glenn Maxwell, who have already gotten that looping spot, to be able to loop between guys like Kane Richardson, Sangers, Connolly's obviously there as well, McDermott up in the keeping spot. Or I could potentially stash a Darcy Short or a Ben Menenti if we don't think the role is going to be great, onto the looping spot, the bench emergency, so to be able to loop potentially there as well. There's lots of options that you can do with your side. So we go into the Strikers squad there, and if you're looking up top in their batting order, there are a few guys that you can be fairly confident that are going to do well for you, and that's mainly going to be Matt Short. If you're looking at a bit of a pod play, then that's where Chris Lynn comes into calculations there. The biggest reason you would go for him is the thought that he could go absolutely nuclear like Colin Munro did in round one. And from what I'm seeing at the moment, the trades that people are going for are fairly similar at this point. So it's a mixture between Matt Short as a definite and obviously that captaincy option. The second option seems to be David Payne, very, very clearly. And then the third one is a little bit of a, take your pick. So you could go for a Bazley, and I'll explain why why you should go for him potentially. Obviously, Chris Lynn, in that one there, you don't get the Kerry or the head for those that are looking at that. They're already owned by too many teams. Unfortunately, there you've got Adam Jose as well, Adam Hose, as a potential option, but didn't go particularly well last year, so I'd personally move away from him. You then get into that middle order of Price and Jamie Overton, and he's another one to look at. So let's split between those two as a potential option. And I think Lynn, out of all of these guys, is going to be that boom or bust kind of pod option in there on that one. Overton and Bazley. I think you should select Bazley very clearly if he happens to be batting ahead of Overton in this one. So if he manages to get sort of a roll at about that batting at sort of 6, potentially even 7, I think anywhere in those two spots, I think is an absolutely cracking roll, given there's a high chance that he will bowl a good amount of overs. We do need to see how many bowlers that they put in their squad or in their 11 come game day as well. Because if they do load up with those 3 quicks, plus Overton, plus Bazley in there, and potentially like a Menenti They have Darcy Short and Matt Shaw. They have 8 potential bowlers in that squad. And that's where those all-rounders, that's where, Manenti, these types of players there could be a little bit tough for them to get overs. You'd imagine Matt Shaw gets the 1 or 2, depending on how they decide to roll with that. And if he does bowl that first over or in that power play like he seems to do very regularly, then that's where it becomes a lot of question marks just based on that. But as I said, you get to decide that come game 1 here in round 2. I think, as I said, Lynn has the biggest potential to go nuts. I think David Payne, obviously with his scoring last year, the 4 games that he played, averaging 64.3, I believe, he's priced nowhere near that average, which is great. So you're getting someone that if they play anything like what he did last year, which he did take a lot of wickets and did really well, but has that potential as a left arm swing bowler, and it sounds like he's going to be bowling at the death as well, so potential for those junk wickets there, which is great. So I think he's probably your safest option at 139, a fair bit cheaper than that of Chris Lynn at 167.9 there. So David Payne probably second, along with Wes Agar. I do really like Wes and his potential to score really well. He's not in this list here, given he's given he's a bowler. And I'm just looking at the bats and those that have the jeweler as well. So Wes Agar is one of those guys that I've been having in and out of my side. And I suppose the question mark you need to look at is it worth having a guy that's going to be a little bit more of a point of difference guy in Wes Agar, or do you go with the pack in David Payne? So, potentially it could be one of those things that if haven't started super well and you want to go for a little bit of a pod, you don't want to do a bit of a point of difference player with a Matt Short captain, but you're happy to do it with guys like Chris Lynn and potentially a Wes Agar instead of going for David Payne, which seems to be more of a majority right now. Then that could be the good way to go about it. So I think both of those guys are going to do really well. You'd imagine Wes Agar bowls some overs at the death as well, and will definitely be one of those guys to get his 4 overs. So have a look at both of those guys there for sure, and then you want to be looking at Overton and where he ends up in that batting order, and then how many bowlers as well are in this side for his potential for some overs of bowling as well. So what you need to think of here, guys, is that these guys on the double, the price is not going to be too much of an issue. Because how you should be looking at is going from round 2. So once this is all finished out and they play their double, is that you should most likely be trading 2 or 3 of those Adelaide strikers if you have 4 or 5 of them, and moving them on to either some stars, which is going to be a bit of a yucky team to even think about or look at the moment, or Renegades plays in round 3 who have that double. So both those teams have the double, and you want to be moving a bunch of those strikers on anyway. So just go all out in this round 2 with those guys, because likely you're going to be moving even if it is a James Bazley, you think he's going to have a decent role for a couple of games, you can then move him straight on to one of those guys from a Renegades or also the Stars. Quinton de Kock is on my radar as a guy that I could spend up with my cash to get him, and if he happens to score a little bit lower in his first hit out, then that could drop his price right down, and then we have a bit of an opportunity to get him in the 150s, 160s, something like that. If he goes boom, then he'll get back to sort of where he started and then have potential to make money for us if we look to pick him up. So there are a bunch of the players that you want to be looking at from the strikers coming into round 2. I wouldn't be looking at a Harry Nielsen. I think it's a bit of a waste. I don't think he's going to bat anywhere near high enough. He could be behind Bazley. He could be behind Jamie Overton as well. And if that's the case, then that I think helps both those all-rounders out. Definitely for sure in that one. So a couple other guys to look at obviously is if things have worked out pretty well for you in round 1, you've stashed a bunch of Adelaide strikers, guys, and you missed out on the cash grab and the points of our man Swepson. Again, I'm in the batting side, unfortunately. He's up at just over 100k now, and with a negative 60 break even, I think 70 break even, then if he's to score, I believe it's in the 40s, he could go up another sort of 30k, which would be awesome for anyone who has him now, but if anyone who hasn't grabbed him so far. And that type of pickup, I think, is predatory on the fact that you don't currently have a Fraser McGurk. You don't currently have a Tanvi Sanger. So Sanger has the double in round 4. Fraser McGurk obviously double next round and looks really, really good. Obviously, the abandoned game didn't help him with his price rise, so thankfully you didn't completely lose out. if you didn't grab Fraser McGurk at the start. So those are two other guys there. Tanvir looks like he's got the spot long term, which is great. The double's coming up. He's got a lovely negative break even, a guy you want to be looking at. Fraser McGurk, on the other hand, we're not sure what's going to happen with Sean Marsh and what happens when which position in the batting order he comes back into. And if Fraser McGurk gets moved from 3 down to a 4, 5, or even a 6, with guys like Finchy in there as well, who's obviously a really, really solid number 4. No, not too many other cheapies you want to look at. Not Whiteburn. Mackenzie Harvey, the leg spinner from, I don't get my names right, from Perth. Really, really cheap in the 50s. He obviously had a really good game. Unlikely he keeps his spot. The other thing to look at, guys, is Cooper Connolly. Does he continue bowling in this next game coming up, given the fact that Ashton Agar is looking to be back? So I'll potentially be looking to, I'm going to chuck him in the emergencies, I believe, in my batting side. Chuck the E on him and see how he goes. If he absolutely dominates, I can remove one of those. I can put Harper in to that batting slot and make a decision from there, but obviously looping McDermott along with Billings in that wicket keeping spot as well. And then we'll see how we go, obviously, with the bowling stocks there. With Tanvir Sangha, I would very much like to play him. So him playing the first game, he'll be my emergency down in the bowling slot, with Maxwell being able to be used for that. Looping efforts, and really Richardson's probably my next worst contributor. So he may miss out completely in that one, which would be pretty interesting. So with all the other teams, Jack Edwards obviously made some money as well. The Sixers don't have any further opportunities to get a double, so I don't think it's worth getting him. His break even isn't as low as that of a Swepson. So that's how I'd be looking at this one, guys. Moving into round 2, and yes, that's where I'm at. Likely my third trade at this stage. My third trade was Basley, but I do need to see what that that lineup looks like, and if I want to go for an all-rounder, if I want to go for Chris Lynn, or if I want to go for just a Wes Agar as my third in that one there. So that's how I'll be looking at it heading into that first game of round 2, and I wish all of you guys the best of luck in that first game, especially with our captains and plenty of strikers players. See you guys.